Nancy Cordes joins me now from Washington. So, Nancy, Donald Trump seems to be losing his patience with Republican leaders and vice versa. What are your thoughts? Could he really head into the general without solid backing from the party?
He's going to be lacking a chunk of support no matter what, Elaine. And the question is only how big that chunk will be. You have Republican leaders like Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell who insist that they aren't going to change their minds about their endorsements of him. It's just too important to them to keep the party intact, to make sure that the Republican presidential candidate gets support so that their members of Congress who are running for re-election get support in the polls as well. But there are other members who have very different interests. Take Fred Upton, for example. He's from Michigan, which is kind of a purple state. And so he is not necessarily as conservative as some of his fellow Republicans. And for him, it isn't necessarily a great thing to be tied to Donald Trump, not just now, but in the future. And so he's someone who's willing to say, I can't support him. Same goes for the Republican governor of Maryland. He sees no great need to back Trump when he is a Republican governor in what is a fairly blue state.
What about these news outlets, Nancy? It really is unprecedented for a presidential candidate to ban certain media from their events.
It is unprecedented, which is why the speaker made a point of calling on the Washington Post in that press conference today, not once, but twice, making it clear that he thinks that it is the wrong thing to do. The names of these outlets are starting to pile up at this point for what seem to be very minor infractions. And the question, of course, that's been asked by some of his fellow politicians is, where does this end? If you are the president of the United States, do you feel that you have the right to exclude media outlets who report the news in a way that you don't like? Now, Trump says no, that he won't do that as president, that he is now renting arenas to do his events, and so he can control whether reporters come in or not. But it certainly is unusual, and the question is, Elaine, how many more news outlets will get added to that list before you start to see the media sort of bind together and say, none of us will cover his events until everyone is let in.
Nancy, I want to ask you about this. Governor John Kasich said this morning on MSNBC he's unsure if he'll ever be able to support Trump. Let's take a listen.
Donald Trump called me. He said, you know, can you support me? I said, well, we're like two companies. We have different values, different visions. Kind of hard to put that together. Right. Either there's going to be dramatic change or I can't find my way there. Could you?
So, Nancy, I guess the question really is, will it be a challenge, really, for Donald Trump to try to get people like John Kasich, people who might be a little bit more moderate on some issues? Is that going to be a big challenge for the presumptive nominee?
Absolutely, and especially people who ran against him and who sort of experienced what it was like to be in his crosshairs, like Kasich. I think, you know, for someone like Kasich, who doesn't have to worry, for example, about keeping a congressional majority in the House and Senate intact, you know, he doesn't see the upside of tying himself to someone who may be in political life just for a few more months. I mean, you know, if Donald Trump doesn't win in November, then those politicians who supported him will have that on their records, and he'll be out of the picture. So, you know, a lot of them are looking sort of at the long-term effect on themselves and on their reputations. Then you've got somebody like Reince Priebus, who's the chair of the RNC. Excuse me, and a story came out today detailing all of the friction between Priebus and Trump and the RNC and Trump, which is, again, unprecedented because the RNC essentially acts as an extension of a Republican presidential campaign. Priebus has a vested interest in getting the Republican nominee elected, no matter who that nominee is. And so he tweeted out this afternoon that the reports of discord between himself and Trump are completely fictional, nothing to see here, everything is great, and that they are headed to Texas for a number of fantastic events. events. It was a tweet that almost sounded like it had been written by Trump on the plane and passed over to Priebus to send out. So, every politician has a different motivation here.
Yeah, it was complete with an exclamation point there at the end. I want to turn, Nancy, to the debate over gun control, which is reignited after last weekend's shooting in Orlando. We saw that 15-hour filibuster Senator Chris Murphy launched yesterday on the Senate floor. Republicans pledged to hold votes to expand background checks and prevent those on the terror watch list from buying guns. Is this likely to go anywhere or just become another gun control stall?
Well, it sounds like Democrats will get the votes that they want on the Senate floor early next week, but the question is, can those bills pass? They have failed before. The makeup of the Senate really hasn't changed, and Republicans oppose this Democratic bill to enable the police to stop anyone who is on the terror watch list from buying a gun. They think that that's going to ensnare American citizens who don't have any reason to be denied a gun, and that it'll deny them their due process. And Republicans have a different approach. So it's unlikely that this bill will get any more Republican support than it has in the past. And there are some attempts to negotiate behind closed doors to come up with some kind of compromise. But Elaine, this is an issue where compromise is often almost impossible, and so we haven't seen those negotiations go very far yet.
All right. Nancy Cordes on Capitol Hill for us. Nancy, thank you.
You're welcome.